Alright guys, so you're about to watch video number 2, and in this video I had a hell of a hard time installing that turbo manifold. The issue was that I thought I purchased smaller studs for the block and the to bolt onto the block, but that wasn't the case. What ended up happening is they were just, it looked like, honestly, they looked like they were the same size as the stock studs, so I kind of messed up there. And I do know that they do sell shorter studs. So the ones that I got were M10 by 1.25 pitch, and they were 45 millimeters long. So if you're going to do this and you really need smaller studs, I suggest you get a little bit smaller than 45 millimeter. I'm 100% confident that if they had been 44 millimeters or 43 millimeters, they would have been perfect. I don't know what the next size down is. I believe the next size down is probably 42, but I could be wrong. So anyways, in this video you see I am struggling like a mofo to install that damn turbo manifold. And I had to take it off, put it on, 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 because I just could not get that damn thing in there. And the manifold alone was difficult to install, for fuck's sake. You had to kind of go in at an angle and then come back up. It was just the terrible fitment, and the wastegate is basically what's causing the biggest issue. The pipe for the wastegate, it just rubs up against the body of the car. Once the way I was able to get that finally all installed was installing one stud, and that is the lower right stud closest to the headlight, the second to the right on the lower side. I had to get that thing in there as tight as I could, and basically the manifold did get stuck there, and I just gave it a few love taps and poof, it went right through it. That's why I'm saying 43 millimeter would have probably been perfect and I wouldn't have rubbed, but it is what it is. The only thing is, it just took me forever. It took me literally hours because I had to take it off and put it on several times. But once I got that done, I mean, it was pretty smooth sailing from there. In this video, I do a little more talking, and I'm explaining what I'm going to do, what the plan is, why I didn't end up using the PTE 5862, and then I also show how I did the oil drain line setup. Anyways, enjoy the show, guys. Thanks for coming back. More parts. I wanted to explain real quick, the tape that you see right there, the reason you see that is because what I did is tape the gasket so that it would stay in place when I'm trying to bolt up the manifold. And I had to take it off just like the manifold several times, and you know, it would fall off. This is blue tape and it's not very sticky. I did try to clean off the oil on there, but there's just so much. Best thing to do is to use a longer piece of blue tape or some different tape that are suited for this. Finally! Just like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I was so damn stressed. I mean, I compressed and I deleted so much footage of me taking this out and putting it back in. So you guys don't really see the whole story here, but this was so aggravating and frustrating. That's why you see me all, fucking finally, beep, 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 beep. You'll see me get underneath the car here in a second, and basically it's so that I can start to put the studs and the nuts that go on the bottom. If you blink, you'll miss it, but I purchased some aluminum heat shield that I placed right between the wheel well there and the turbo manifold to keep some of the heat down away from the wheel well. So I came across an issue when I attempted to mount the turbocharger. This is the max speeding rod turbocharger. Slap it on here, and the turbine is hitting this water neck here. And I'm unable to bolt in any of these bolts over here. Or actually, you could do one bolt, but then nothing else aligns. all four bolts won't align because it's hitting right here. So I went to try the Precision 5862 turbo, and that thing is a little bit smaller and it moved just a little bit more, but it's still not enough. It wasn't clearing, it's still hitting the water neck. Other than buying a smaller turbocharger, which I have no money for right now, plus I also ripped some of the stuff that came off to do this swap was damaged, so I'm unable to go back to stock. So what do? I don't have any money to buy a smaller turbocharger, so I started looking online for spacers that I've seen before, and I found one. Actually, I found quite a lot of them. They make them anywhere from 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 2 inch, to even 3 inch spacers. This goes between the turbo manifold and the turbo itself. Boom, billet 2 inch spacer. Sorry, I'm looking at myself. It's not out of vain. It's just laugh sometimes. This thing is fucking heavy. Now, normally you can just fucking weld it on there so you don't have to use the gasket, but I'm not gonna do that. I had to stop the video because I wanted to go double check. It looks like they didn't send me a fucking gasket, which is bullshit. I got this from azcncmanufacturing.com. The photo where I saw where it was for sale says it includes 2 gaskets and it didn't, which is fucking bullshit. Alright, well, now that I look like one of them proper YouTubers, I hope you all come back and watch my fucking show. Hey. Alright. Let's do this shit. Well, I decided to throw on that 2-inch billet manifold spacer and throw on the Precision 5862 turbocharger to see if it would clear the water neck, but guess what? Sadly, it did not clear. On the real note, just relax, guys. The reason I goof around like this is, this is just who I am. Plus, I want something for my kids to be able to see once I'm gone in the future or whatever, so they can come back and have a laugh. It is now day like 15 or something like that. I lost track of time, to be honest with you guys. So what is the holdup? What's the big deal with changing out a turbo and a manifold and stuff? Well, I had to take out everything stock, right? The studs that come out of the head for you to mount the manifold, the stock one that was on there, those studs, I mean, they're rusted and they look really bad. I mean, they're probably fine, but a couple of them were stripped, and interestingly enough, there was about 2 or 3 of them that were actually loose. They came loose over time, which would explain why I had a whistle every now and then when I would hit boost. That's not a huge concern. I mean, take it out, clean it up, put some Loctite on it or whatever. And some of the studs were stripped. 2 of them were stripped actually, and I made them worse, so I can't reuse those. I might as well replace them all. So I had to wait for those and order those. The fitting for the oil feed is using a, what is it called, a banjo bolt, and I'm switching to just an AN fitting. So I had to order the fitting, but first I had to figure out what freaking size it was. Can't remember at this point, so I'm sorry about that. I have it written down somewhere, or maybe I said it earlier in the video. I honestly cannot remember. But anyways, that's just one thing. Another thing is, like, I installed the manifold and everything, and then I started looking. I'm like, holy cow, there's not a lot of space to build a 3-inch downpipe all the way down through. However, there's plenty of people that are doing it, so I should be able to do it. This Miggy built turbo manifold, in my opinion, is not the best, and that's part of the problem. When you're going to upgrade to an aftermarket turbo, it is my recommendation, having done turbo upgrades, this is like my 4th or 5th time swapping out a turbo, either in this car, the Mustang, or somebody else's car. I'm gonna recommend to you guys that when you're gonna go aftermarket, buy a kit. Don't piece it together. And you might save a few bucks here and there piecing it together. However, when these manufacturers make kits, I mean, they're doing test fitting and they're making sure that the kit you are purchasing works on the car that you have or that you're running. For the most part, if you're doing swaps, this doesn't apply to you. But for like a stock chaser, there are plenty of kits out there. I mean, you're gonna pay a premium, but it is what it is, man. I honestly think it is worth paying that premium for one of those, because this has been a giant pain in the ass. The problem for me is that I just don't have those kind of funds. So I have the turbo manifold, and I already had a turbo. I saw at least 3 people, maybe 4, that I either saw videos or read about online that had good luck with the turbo making decent power. I think the most I saw was like a 450, 500 horsepower one. I honestly don't remember because that research was done months and months ago. Almost probably closer to when I bought the car. That's when that research was done. But anyways, so I had that turbo, right? It's a T3 inlet with a 4-bolt 3-inch outlet. And then the front, that's either a 3.5-inch or a 4-inch inlet for the compressor. But the problem was that alright, sorry about all that. This part of the compressor was hitting right here, the water neck for the coolant line. And the only way I was able to get that clearance right there was by buying this ridiculously but cool, heavy looking 2-inch manifold spacer. It is billet, so it is quality, which honestly I don't know if that matters. I don't know if this makes any difference when it comes to power. I would assume not, but you might be surprised if it smooths out the air coming out of that rinky-dinky turbo manifold. Because remember, I did have to go and clean the inside of the outlet on that turbo manifold because it was just bad. Whoever built it, the welds were just crazy, and it still needs some more cleaning up. But anyways, I would assume it would smooth it out because this is billet and it is just smooth. So maybe not. I mean, it's probably not, to be honest. You know those throttle body spacers that some cars have? Like, they make a lot of them for the EcoBoost Mustang. This car, I don't know that anybody makes any throttle body spacers, but anyways, you know, they claim to give you like an extra jump in performance or whatever, but it's probably just placebo. Anyways, so that was one other issue that I ran into. This compressor was not clearing. Without this spacer, the compressor hits right here on the water neck, so that's why I had to do that. Another issue that I ran into is I have a bunch of fittings, and the ones that I have unfortunately did not fit this turbocharger at all. This turbocharger has for coolant to come in and out, which I am not going to use at the moment. I might change it later, but for now I'm not going to use it. To get the size for this and this, it was just a pain in the ass, because let me just show you guys. I'm not bullshitting. This whole freaking bag is full of all kinds of fittings, not just for oil feeds and vacuum or whatever, but also for my air ride suspension on the Mustang and the air suspension on the Chaser. Okay, so back over here. What else? you know, I'm gonna have to figure out all this stuff here. This is the boost, what is it, boost solenoid. So I'll have to figure out where to mount that away from the manifold, because this thing is, if there's one thing that I have read consistently, is the amount of hot heat created, the amount of heat created off of the turbine and the manifold. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna do all this. Right now, the biggest thing that's keeping me from finishing this fucking project is I'm out of money again, but I need to basically build myself a downpipe. And I've never built a downpipe. I've done a little bit welding here and there, so this is all new to me. But yeah, that's where we're at. What I'm gonna do right now, and I'm sorry if you guys missed the mounting of the turbo or whatnot, but what I need to do right now is basically come down here and install the oil drain line. I do have this shielding to use for it, but I need to cut the length because it's a little bit too long, and the other one that I have is a little bit too short. So that's where I'm at. I'm doing my best. After that, I believe the other thing that I need to do is I'll need to figure out what I'm going to do right here for the turbo to go into the intercooler piping. I mean, that's not a big deal. I mean, I can take off this compressor and try and weld a 90 degree on there or something, or I'm not too worried about it. But anyways, I was thinking at one point to cut a 5-inch hole here, or a 4-inch hole, and relocate this piping right here. And then for the turbo, I was thinking to build a 4-inch pipe at a that's gonna be like a 45 to come all the way here, and then put the filter inside here. There's plenty of air there, so that's a possibility. And the only reason I would want to do that is because, look, right here is where the engine is located. The engine is located right here, man. There's gonna be a lot of heat here. But the further away I get from all of that shit over there, the better air temps I'm gonna have. So yeah, that's where we're at. One thing I forgot to mention is why I went with this turbocharger as opposed to the one from the Mustang, which is a much fancier, much more modified, turbocharger. This is a Precision 5862 with a T51 R mod, and this turbo is freaking amazing. It is powder coated white, but it's been abused, so it really doesn't look that great anymore. And this thing is ceramic coated black. I believe it's a great turbocharger. So this thing was still hitting the water neck. Actually, it was touching it almost by like a half of a millimeter, I shit you not. And with the vibration from the engine, it's gonna be rattling and shit, so I can't use this. Now, if I would have went with a 2.5 inch to 3 inch spacer, then that shit would be up here, and now I would start having concerns about the hood closing. Eventually, I would like to go with an aftermarket hood. I like this hood, there's nothing wrong with it, but for looks, and I want something that has cutouts for the heat to dissipate out into the air or whatever. What else? So we're underneath the chaser, and I wanted to show, this is the stock fitting for the oil drain, and it is weirdly shaped. Let's see if you guys can see that. It's got this weird ass angle, and of course it's not the same size as everything else because manufacturers can't pull their head out of their asses and work together to standardize every fucking size of thing out there, because one person thinks this is better than the other as far as size and shape or whatever. Anyways, So I found this and I put this on there. So how am I going to do this? Here's this long ass line here, and in order to avoid the heat that comes off of the manifold here, I'm gonna come around here, the coolant line. Yeah, that's still gonna be hot, and go this way. What I'll do is I'm gonna connect that right there, tighten it up. Then I'll come down here with a marker and mark where I want to be more or less for it. And then I'll chop that up wherever the marker is, put the other fitting on there, put the sleeve on there, and voila. And then I put a sleeve on the oil feed line here. And instead of going straight up over the coolant, I went underneath and around. Again, I want to try and get away from this as much as possible, and that's the best option there. I mean, there's probably another oil feed line hole somewhere else that I can use that other people have figured out, but I'm new to this platform and that's the best I could come up with, so it is what it is. Here's my mark. Now I can cut this. What you do after you cut it, you have to try and, you know, get some compressed air and blow any debris out of that thing, because you don't want that going into your car, obviously. Dremel, that's what it's fucking called. Oh yeah, I decided just to use a Dremel. This is going to be the easiest way for me to get this off. Now, I'm not worrying about this being too clean. See, this is getting in the way. Once I cut this, then I won't have this in the way and I can move off. Got these cutters for sheet metal. Let's see if I can go in between and cut that rubber. Now I can come back and clean this up a little bit. So before, this was hitting this part of the stainless steel line, so I couldn't cut straight. Now I can come back and clean it up now that it's gone. And I might have to cut some more, that's okay. You don't want this opening up too much, because you're going to have a hard time getting that AN in there. Alright, now I gotta go put the fitting on and see if it's enough, or if I need to cut more. It's not 100% fit properly on there right there. I'm going to have to cut some more off. It's just too much line coming this way. Unless I came all the way around that way and then back. The coolant drain line from the radiator is there, so I don't know. I gotta figure this out. I gotta cut some more at the end. I don't want to cut off too much because that's when you fuck up. Back to the drawing board. It was not enough. I think if I have to cut this again next time, I'll put this tape on the other side as well. It's too much slip. I've never had a hard time with these, and I've done several of them.